Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to this program about your Kundalini awakening experiences. And as usual, I'm just going to dive in here. Now, some people are asking me, where can I get more of this information? And the information is given a lot. This information is distributed freely, freely, over the internet. You can go to Kundalini Awakening Systems, .com, and you can go into the articles, and you can read close to maybe 30 or 40 articles on Kundalini, the way my Kundalini has presented it to me, and my Kundalini has presented it to me in a way that allows others to partake of it. It chooses the words, it chooses the subject, and it begins to disseminate that knowledge about that specific subject in ways that other people can have it. But I must warn you that with regards to reading articles about Kundalini that the Kundalini itself has written, you need to read it 2 or 3 times. There are layers and layers and layers of information within those sentences and those words that are being chosen within that subject, whatever the subject might be. And it is really, really a powerful, powerful exploration to read it and to discover that hidden information that the Kundalini has embedded into those articles. So if you go to Kundalini Awakening Systems 1.com, you can go there. Another place you can go is Kundalini Awakening Systems 1.uk. And that's basically it. That has some newer information on it, some of the more recent articles. But that is another resource that people have. One can also go to the YouTube network, and in the search window there, put in chrism.kundalini, and about 340 videos will come up, all about the Kundalini and your relationship to the Kundalini, et cetera, so forth. So there are other opportunities. Facebook, we have the Kundalini Awakening ! Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 on Facebook, Kundalini Healing on Facebook, a lot of stuff on Facebook, Kundalini People, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3, Kundalini Radiant community, all the different communities that we have on Facebook. On the Yahoo network, we have Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo groups, so that one is there. On the Google Plus network, we have Kundalini Awakening ! As well. And you're welcome to explore any of these groups that we have and that we post this information about the Kundalini on. So there are other resources. You can also go to a seminar, and I'm gonna bring my co-host here, Amelia Santara, on, and here she is, bringing her on. Hello, Amelia.
Hi, Chrism.
Hey, you're coming through loud and clear. Very nice. Nice sound.
Good.
Sound. So, do you have any announcements to make?
I do. I have a few to make actually today. Rosemary isn't with us. She usually is, but today she is screening the Kundalini documentary video with Joey, so she's not going to be here, so I'm going to give the information. She has organized a seminar on July the 9th and 10th, and Chrism will be coming to or going to
Minnesota.
Today. Minnesota, yeah. From 9 to 5 each day on July the 9th and the 10th. And this is going to be held in Drum Creek Farm on the Prairie, which is quite near, I believe, the Twin Cities of St. Paul and...
It's about 30 minutes away. About 30 minutes away.
30 minutes is all.
it's on a piece of land that is the restored prairie, and this is what attracted me to having a seminar there in the first place, was the virginity of the land that has been allowed to return to the way it was, 200 years ago, with all the same native plants and gosh, when you go out there, you go to Iowa or Ohio or parts of Minnesota. I mean, it's just for miles and miles and miles, the land has been converted into farmland, and we're talking commercial farmland. All the trees have been stripped and taken out of these fields, and it's basically a Monsanto game out there. And to see these people doing the exact opposite, to restoring the prairie and restoring the natural flow of life that the prairie represents, well, that's a perfect opportunity for people to experience.
Perfect venue.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah. I'm going to give Rosemary's email address. It's rosemaryg@usinternet.com, and her phone number is 651-329-9615. And that's July 9th and 10th. And contact her if you have an interest in going. She'll have more details for you.
And I believe her email address, rosemaryg at usinternet.com. Right.
.com. Right. Yeah. And I'd like to make an announcement as well about Berlin. Last week there was a little bit of confusion, between the chat room and some misprint about the dates of the seminar there. So I just want to confirm that the dates are indeed September the 3rd and 4th. That's the first Saturday and Sunday in September.
Excellent.
And Manisha is the lady that is organizing this seminar with Santander, and she is actually in Berlin this week, and she tells me that already she has found a possible venue and she's delighted with it. And it seems to be available as well on the 3rd and 4th, and she will let us know when that booking is confirmed. But the actual venue is probably not as important now as the date. So I would like to say, if you need to organize time off work, if you need to take time away from home, if you need to book sitters for the children, for the dog, for the cat, the dates have been confirmed by Manisha. Saturday and Sunday, the 3rd and 4th of September. So, if you live anywhere in Europe, do seriously consider coming to meet Prism and other people, other Kundalini people. I'm going to give you Manisha's ID on Facebook because you can message her there. It's Manisha, Maneesha, Manisha, Manish, Maneesh. And her email address is manisha@posteo.de. I'm going to spell that. Maneeshr, as an apple, at post, posteo.de. That's DE for Denmark. So do contact her and let her know that you have an interest, even if you're not 100% sure. She'll put you on a mailing list and will keep you up to date. And again, those dates are the 3rd and 4th of September. So that's it. Oh, and about donations, Chrism, I would like to let the listeners know once again that the donate button on the Yahoo site, Kundalini Awakening Systems 1, does not work. It's not operating at all a dead duck. It's actually a very annoying button that we just can't remove at the moment. So if you would like to help to support the work that Chrism does, please go instead to www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com. And as Chrism said earlier, his teachings are distributed freely. The articles, the YouTube videos, he does not charge, and he works on a donation basis. So all donations, big or small in particular, are also very, very welcome. So you can go to www.prism-kundalini.blogspot.com and you can donate there. And those are all my announcements, Prism.
Thank you. Thank you for making them, Amelia. I'd like to welcome everybody in the chat room. Atlanta Seeker, Brent D., Emma Travis, guest 896 and 914, Mary Jean and Vincent 91. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the program. Would also like to welcome the callers. And we'll go ahead and bring Elizabeth and Laranya on right now. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hello, Prism.
Hello, and how are you this beautiful day?
I'm doing really well. I'm just driving home. I'm in the middle of driving home from work.
Well, let me
there.
know. Let me know when you're home, so that we would like to listen to whatever, if anything, Laranya would like to say to us. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'll put you in the blue for the moment. All right. So a question has come to me from a student. It's like, what happens if you're trying to meditate and the meditation is being interrupted by entities? So this is a very real scenario. And so depending on the quality of the entity interruption of your meditation, certainly we're talking about a stillness meditation where you're just sitting still in triangular pose and just following the breathing. What you can do is, in order to counteract some of that, is to do a mantra meditation. A mantra meditation would go something like this. You're sitting in your position, your selected position to do a Kundalini meditation. And then you're going, I am at one with the all that I am. I am at one with the all that I am. I am at one with the all that I am, etc., and so forth. And let that spoken phrase begin to defray any kind of interruption that entities may try to insert into your process. And they will do anything they can do to corrupt it. And that includes corrupting your meditation. And so do your best, that's just one mantra I gave. You could also do the Sanskrit Om Namah Shivaya Om. That works. Any kind of a scenario that allows you to circumvent their interruption is a very positive type of scenario. Now, I know, some of the folks listening right now are having, indeed, some extreme entity contact. And with that, I want you to do the crucible of reversal. And that crucible of reversal can be a very, very, very important quality and practice for you to have, that if you take it really seriously, it's going to take you a long ways into not allowing them to interrupt your Kundalini equation at all in any way, whether it's in meditation or whether it's doing your practice or in your dream life or in your waking life or in any of the many ways that the Kundalini will interact with you. Okay, so it's very important for you to understand that. There is recourse. You don't have to just sit there, try to meditate and have them scream at you or cuss at you or, say all the bad things that they enjoy saying to you, as they try to corrupt your process. And I'm also talking about those entities that say nice things and truthful things too, because they're just trying to get a hook into your attention. Once they got that hook, then they turn right around and they start dumping on you or slamming on you or trying their very best to hurt your process in whatever way they can. So do your very best to steer clear of any form of communication, even aggressive form. This is like, in the name of Christ, entity be gone. That's not going to work either. That's not going to work either. The Kundalini is allowing these entities to interfere with your process on purpose. It's not an accident. It's on purpose. And that purpose is so that you learn how to take command and control of your thoughts and feelings about this this amazing experience that you're having. Okay? So it's very important for people to understand this. So that's my answer to that question. And you know, you do that mantra meditation, and you do it consistently, and you really feel and mean and say the words with total authenticity and total focus. And that will take care of a lot of the interruptions that the entities will try to provoke a person with. This is spring now, and I'd really like people to get outside. Get outside, get barefoot in that new grass. I understand if you're in Minnesota, there's a possibility that there may be a little tiny bit of snow on the ground, which seems that's all Minnesota gets ever, really, is just little tiny bits of snow. But so that may make it kind of cold on your feet. So, you know, kind of use your own discernment there. But do try to get outside in the fresh spring prana and really begin to soak up those new energies. You may feel like many of the creatures around you, you may feel the urge to reproduce or the urge to merge in that way. And I say answer that. Answer that. Don't unless you're practicing celibacy, well then answer that call and allow that to occur for you. Don't be afraid to just go out, throw down a blanket, or just lay down on the lawn and let that energy come into you from the earth itself and also from the sun, if the sun is shining in your area. Feel that connection. Feel the connection with all creation, with all life, as you begin to engage the Kundalini on deeper levels of discernment. I want you to discern what it is to be there in the springtime where you are, soaking up that energy from the natural environment. Which brings me to another topic along the lines of this is sunglasses. Don't be overly zealous with wearing the sunglasses. Your eyes need specific frequencies of natural sunlight to come in. Your Kundalini eyes require certain levels of blue frequency to come in. And I know they have some sunglasses out there that'll block the blue light. Don't wear those. Now, of course, if you're driving or you're having to do something that's forcing you to stare into the sun, you need those sunglasses. Well, go ahead and put them on. But just, people tend to turn sunglasses into a fashion statement, and they wear them at night. Okay, they wear them when they don't need to wear them. And I'm going to suggest that Kundalini people do not do that. Do as minimum as you can with the sunglasses. Let your Kundalini equation feast on the different frequencies of light that are coming into your optic nerve via your eyes. Natural sunlight, natural sun-embossed colors. So how the sun lights up that green grass, well, there's that green going into you. How the sun lights up the blue of that water or that ocean or that lake, well, there's that blue coming into you. How that red rose or that red flower is looking. Well, you eat that with your eyes. You eat it with your eyes. It's a very, very beautiful and very nourishing thing for a person to have. And I want to welcome some of the new folks that I'm seeing here in the chat room, and that is I'm welcoming Doug and I'm welcoming Emma. Hello, Emma. Hello, Doug. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us today. And Phil Karuba is saying that sun gazing was very paramount in his awakening. I don't recommend sun gazing. I don't think sun gazing has to happen for people. But Phil, if it worked for you and you feel that was a conducive quality, then so be it. I understand that some people like to do that. I certainly don't recommend it. I know that there's a technique to it. You only stare at the sun during the setting or the rising, and you only do it for a certain amount of seconds. But even so, I just think that the long-term practice of that can be somewhat hazardous to your visual health. But get outside, people. And if you can do it at 3 o'clock in the morning, first of all, I tip my hat to you for getting up that early and going out barefoot on the grass, or if you live in a place where you can be natural in nature, then do that. One of these days, I'm going to do a show on prana feeding, and at the 3 o'clock in the morning is the best time for prana feeding. One of the techniques, I guess I'll go into a little bit of it now, of prana feeding is to go outside and begin to do some Qigong exercises. Qigong takes advantage of the prana that's so pervasive at 3 in the morning. And the Kundalini likes it too. Your Kundalini may actually wake you up at 3 o'clock so that you can get outside and breathe the air, breathe through your eyes, breathe through your nose, breathe through your mouth, breathe through your hands, breathe through your feet, breathe through your heart, breathe through every part of the body that you can possibly do. Use a chakra breathing method for this. So, there's chakras in the palms of your hand, and there's chakras in the palms of your feet. There's chakras in your heart. And each of those chakras is an actual pranic orifice that a person can use to pull prana into those specific areas of the body. That prana will feed your Kundalini in very, very nutritious and very healthy ways. So really begin to do that. And when you're working in these areas, like say at 3 o'clock in the morning, don't be afraid to do your safeties practice. The 5 Tibetans, the locks, the forgivenesses, the tolerances. Go through the safeties practice and practice all of these safeties at the 3 o'clock hour. That you can do your whole practice in less than an hour, really, with the safeties. And then if you want to, go outside, you go outside and you really begin to inhale through the nose, sharply, along with various body movements, like taking your arms from the sides of your body and thrusting them skyward as you inhale, and then bringing them down as you exhale. And you just do that over and over and over. And that is a Qigong method of bringing in prana from those very sensitive times of the day. The birth of the new day really starts at 3 a.m. Okay, that's when things are really, really getting going. And so, wow, I don't think I've talked to you about prana feeding before. It's what a lot of people that are breatharians, they call themselves breatharians because they say that they're living off of the air. But in actuality, they're living off of prana. Prana in the various ways that prana has. Now, if anybody ever tells you to join hands with a group of other people and surround a tree and to take the life force from that tree, do not do that. That is forbidden. That is going against ahimsa, because literally the tree can be killed that way. And I don't want those trees to die. And we need all the trees that we can get on this planet as we pollute the heck out of it, by our CO2 emissions and things of that nature. The trees require CO2, and so they're great cleansers of the atmosphere and the air. So keep as many trees and plant as many trees as you can. Do not take the energy away from trees. The best place to do that is with the grasses, because the grass, the meadow grass and the different forms of grass, all of their roots are interconnected. And so they will have a huge network to pull from. And so when you pull energy from the grass, they in turn pull energy from other areas of the lawn or the meadow, whatever you're in. And they're able to restore their energetic patterns, whereas a tree, many trees are not intermingled. I know that redwoods are, and some of the other trees are, but most trees are kind of standalone singularities. Their roots go very, very, very deep in the soil, and they don't spread out so much like, say, a redwood tree do. And so, realize that, recognize that. Don't take a tree. Don't take the life of a tree simply because you want to do some prana feeding. Go out there on the lawn. Go out there on the meadow. Go out there and just breathe that air in at 3 a.m. You don't have to be naked at 3 a.m. either. I mean, that is if the temperature where you live in your environment supports going out there unclothed, and you're not going to be seen by other people, you're not going to cause any kind of a problem with other people, then that's fine. That's fine. But if you're in the more northern latitudes, it's more of a temperature challenge. And so don't be afraid to put a jacket on or put clothing on and go out there. You can be barefoot, but don't be afraid to do those things either. The idea is not to be so uncomfortable that you can't focus on what you're doing. The idea is to focus on what you're doing within a kind, considerate, and discerning practice and level of practicality as you're up and about at 3 o'clock in the morning. You'll find that many Kundalini people will find that the Kundalini itself will snap you awake at 3, and that's because she wants you to do specific things at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not just because she wants to wake you up. It's not a pee break or anything like that. Okay. So there's that. I just wanted to discuss that with you. The other thing I wanted to discuss really is the dream life today. Dreams can become visions very quickly. What I mean by that is the differentiation between a dream and a vision. A dream happens typically when you're asleep. The vision happens when you're awake. And so what I mean by that is that you can be inside of a dream and then wake up and have that dream continuing itself in a waking vision format right there in your bedroom as you're laying there in your bed. And so don't let that frighten you. That's a normal, natural progression of visions from dreams that a person can experience. Sometimes, you may be having a bad dream or something of that nature, and that will pull it into the room. And you can just fix that by just focusing on the love that you have for your Shakti Kundalini and allowing that love to dominate anything that say, a nightmare has brought into your room. And this leads me to another conversation that I was having with a student earlier who lives in New York. New York City is not the easiest place to have the Kundalini. Neither is Los Angeles or downtown San Francisco or Miami or any of the large metropolitan areas. It's not easy because of a miasma. And I know this may be a new word for some of you, miasma, M-I-A-S as in Sam, M as in Mary, and then A as in apple, as opposed to as in apple. No offense. When you're in a big metropolitan area, there's a certain quality and kind of entity interference that can come. I mean, you may have heard me mention in other programs the entities that look like very tall men with tall, pointy hats, kind of like looking like tall sorcerers. They're there to spread terror, and you can feel them before you see them because of the level of terror that they put into their radiance. Just once again, you ignore that. They've got no power over you except your fear. They know that your fear will control you, and so they do try to control you with fear. But once you get over the fear, there's nothing for them to do. I mean, they don't even make a good broom, even though they're tall. They just have to leave, and they do. They do. Once they figure out that you're no longer susceptible to the terror zone that they're giving, then they leave. This is just one variety of entity that happens in really pancaked human living establishments. By pancake, I mean a huge disproportionate amount of human life in one single area. Like these apartment complexes that are these high rises. That would be a pancake version of humans living together in a very compressed and very somewhat crowded scenario. And so these big cities, they produce entities that are really, really provoking people from a survival aspect. How do I survive in the big city? Am I getting enough business? Is the income coming in? And, how am I able to meet these challenges that living in a big city presents for a person? And it's not easy to have Kundalini in these big cities, and so of course, as Doug is mentioning on the chat room, he's saying that's why I'm being forced to move out into the country, in the mountains, and this is a great plan, and yes, indeed, Doug, she will force you to pull up wherever it is you're living and move to somewhere that is conducive to your learning and your processing Kundalini within you. I mean, for some people, it means they have to move all the way across the country, as we know by some of the folks that are listening to this program right now. They got to move from coast to coast, and it's not always to the country that they're moved to. That sometimes they're just moved to a small town, but in the place where they're sequestered, it's like being in a big city, and yet it's not. You'll have all the drug issues, alcoholic issues, homeless issues that a big city has, just on a smaller level. But still, even in Santa Rosa has a miasma of survival around it, and but that also has its own lessons to learn. You learn how to appreciate nature in whatever way it is presented to you. That flower going from the crack of a sidewalk in a street, just in total defiance of the quality of control that humanity would want to have over the environment, i.e., paving it over so that it makes it easy to walk on or drive on. Well, that flower just shoots itself right up and says, no. You are part of the environment. You are not the controller of the environment. Shakti Kundalini is. And that life that's coming through that sidewalk is potent and pure and powerful. And so, sometimes you'll be moved to a different place that has a different Kundalini frequency, and from that frequency, you'll be able to pull different teachings that apply directly to your Kundalini equation. And it's the same with Doug, moving into the mountainous areas. Mountains are very different than the big city. For instance, when you go outside at 3 a.m. in the mountains, the level of silence there is deafening. And it takes quite an adjustment to move from that constant state of hum and noise and all the electromagnetics that are floating around and all of these things and then to move to a mountainous area where there are very few electromagnetics. There's very little sound. There's just the silence of nature in the natural environment. And, that's a very, very, very powerful and strong move for a person to make, especially within the Kundalini. And so, it's very, very positive, any of these move. And Lori Kawano's coming up, and she's saying, and I'm going to read to you what she's writing. She's saying, I was forced to go into nature yesterday and do an hour of Qigong. First time this has ever happened to me. So there you have it, folks. There you have it. She will ask you to do levels of Qigong. And it's not that Qigong is going to light up your Kundalini, not at all. But the level of prana that Qigong can supply the inside of the body, well, that can be a very, very healthy thing for the body to experience. Very much so. Very much so. So kudos to you, Lori. Nicely done. And kudos to you as well, Doug. Hope you enjoyed the new mountainous areas. So there we have that. Now I'm being moved over to water. There's a kind of water that is called living water. Living water is that water which has not been chemicalized or changed into a toxic substance by people's fear of ingesting spring water. So, the quality of a spring water is living water. The quality of tap water is dead water. Okay? As much as you can, I'm going to suggest that people ingest living water. And what you can do, if you have a fountain at home, or you can put a fountain together You can pour some of that tap water on it if you don't have the wherewithal to get a spring water, which spring water is sold in the stores. It's spring water. It's just not run through all of the chemicalization that United States populations tend to gravitate towards. You can take the tap water and you can pour it over a standing statue or carrel of stones. So you get some clean. You wash the rocks first to get any excess dirt or anything like that off of them, and then you let the rocks dry in the sunlight. And hopefully you have a good hot sun there. You let the rocks dry in the sunlight, and then you pour the water over the rocks. The tap water goes over the rocks, and then it sits there for 2 or 3 hours. You just let it sit there, and then after that time has come, you come on over and you pour that water. You can actually put it through a paper towel filter or a coffee filter, if there's any kind of particulate in it. And that you have changed by virtue of the sun and the natural Shakti that is in the stones. You've turned that back into living water, and you can ingest that. And so this is something that anybody in the cities can do, anybody in the country can do. If you don't like to buy your spring water, well, you can make your living water that way. I don't know if I've told this on this show before. I don't think I have, but there is that way. And be copious in your drinking of the living water, whether you're buying Crystal Geyser or Tahiti water or any of the French water companies. I'm trying Perrier. It doesn't matter whether it's fizzy or not, although there is somewhat of a you don't want to swallow carbon dioxide so much, but it's not going to overly hurt you. I mean, I know that Edgar Casey says don't drink carbonated drinks, but my Kundalini is saying no. Don't worry too much about the fizzy aspect. If the fizzy aspect gets you to drink more water, then all the more reason for you to drink it. You can get this in various formats, like say apple juice or cranberry juice or any of those types of juices that are organic, that don't have FD&C dyes in them or colorings in them. They're very healthy. You can also get your water intake by drinking some of those juices if you need that extra sugar in your environment, and so in your inner environment. So very important for you to understand that. Carry around a liter with you wherever you go, especially for those of you that are in the first phases of the Kundalini, where your adrenals and your kidneys are being transformed. During that transformation, very important for you to have copious amounts of water. And it's very, very, very good for the Kundalini person. And so as let's just say you're not going to do the water, say, oh, water, schmatter, that Trism, I'm not going to do what he tells me what to do. I'm just going to go ahead and be as I want to be, and however I want to be, wherever I want to be. And so if you don't drink the water, if you don't, certainly in these early stages, there's a tendency towards paranoia and anxiety and anger. And the anger will typically be deflected onto others rather than yourself. And the only reason you're being kind of pushed into levels of anxiety or anger is because you're not lubricating the adrenal glands as much as they need to be. You're not partaking of coconut water. You're not partaking of watermelon. If you're starving your body for water, well then the Kundalini and its transformation within you can really change its frequency of being felt by you in a way that is not happy. The anger is typically, and you can really get blown out hard. I mean, we're not talking about, flipping somebody off because they cut you off on the freeway. We're talking about flipping somebody off, following them to their house, getting out of your car when they get out of their car, yelling at them at the top of your lungs for cutting you off, and then driving away. That's the difference. It's quite a major difference. And so do your best to keep the living water flowing through you in the upper and out the lower, and really allow that to occur, and keep your caffeine intake absent. If you can go without your caffeine, then definitely go without your caffeine. That means from black tea or coffee, or even some of the herb teas, like what's that one tea called? What is that one? It's from South America. I forget what it's called. But it has copious amounts of natural caffeine within it. And I don't care if the caffeine is natural. To the Kundalini, caffeine is caffeine, and it's putting a strain and a stress on the adrenals at the very same time that the Kundalini is doing that. And that's a ticket to some unhappiness there. So moving onward from these areas here, very important for you to not eat a full meal. Never come away from the dinner table, breakfast table, lunch table totally satisfied with the amount of food that you just put into your system. Always leave a little bit of hunger there. Always leave a little bit of hunger. And it's not room for dessert so much. It's just, you never want to leave the table totally stuffed. Okay, this tends to lend a person towards levels of self-aggrandizement that are there to please the ego, rather than, showing off in front of other people, which is another form of self-aggrandizement. This is a form of self-aggrandizement that feeds the desires far more than they need to be fed. Eating is really second only to sex. So if a person isn't having great sex, and maybe they're having a great dinner or lunch or anything in between. And so be very, very, very discerning of how much you eat. And always, as I've mentioned in other programs, keep it organic. Keep it organic. Do as much as you can. If you can grow your food yourself, now's the time to plant, folks. It's April now, or it's May. Now's the time to plant your veggie garden or your melons or whatever it is you're going to grow. If you can grow the watermelons, grow them. I'll be planting some watermelon seeds out here as well. Mary Jean is she. That tea I was telling you about is yerba mate. Thank you very much, Mary Jean. Yerba mate has an extreme amount of naturally occurring caffeine within it. And that doesn't mean that it's good for you. It just means that it's got a lot of caffeine in it, just like coffee does or black tea. So try your best to avoid that, because that's just going to feed your anxieties, feed your fear, feed your paranoia, and feed your anger. Okay? Just letting you do that. Now, the next subject that's coming to mind for me is about pets. If you have a pet, then within a Kundalini awakening context, you need to take supreme care of that animal. I don't care if it's goldfish, I don't care if it's a praying mantis or a serpent or a rat or a mouse or a cat or a dog or a bird or whatever your pet is. You need to take extreme care and transmit extreme levels of love, care, and consideration, friendship, as much love as can be poured out onto that animal as you can possibly do. This goes beyond ahimsa. This animal is assisting you in your Kundalini process by giving you a demonstration of what love can be like coming from, say, a dog or a cat. These animals give you the most pure and unadulterated levels of love that, even only babies, human babies, can give this same level of love. I mean, treat them with the utmost kindness and care. Feed them the best food. Give them as much attention as they can possibly stand. Like poor Lasha, you can only imagine what I put poor Lasha through. You know, she gets so much love. I mean, and this is what, you know, I'm strongly suggesting anybody that has pets, whether it's a dog or a horse or a cow or a pig. I know that some of these are people's pets, as well as sheep, chickens. I've had chickens that are so nice and so friendly that they come into the house and they don't even go poop. They come into the house. I like to throw popcorn at them, and they eat the popcorn and then they leave. But they'll fly onto your shoulder. The chickens make the best friends that you could imagine. I mean, they're very, very good, and they're very strong predators. They partake of the ticks and the many different insects that may be out of balance in your lawn, and they do it naturally, and they do it the way their own connection to the divine allows them to do. So, any of the pets that you have, give them extreme love, extreme attention, good food, clean water, and lots of pets and lots of appreciation. If you've got a dog, take that dog with you in the car wherever you're going. Let that dog be with you. Let them be part of your everyday life, not just part of your house life. Okay. If you have a bird, well, maybe that's a little more challenging. But so I've seen some of the birds traveling around town. If you have a snake, well, you'll have to abjure to the qualities of that animal that allow that animal to enjoy itself with you out amongst other people. But really, if you have pets, then you have karma associated with that pet. Make sure that karma is good karma. Make sure that karma is good karma. And make sure that you treat that pet, that animal, whether it's a wild or domesticated animal, that you treat it like the representation of Shakti, Kundalini that it is. That it is. And this feeds directly into your Kundalini equation. All right. Now I'm going to swing it on over to Santara here and see if she has any questions collected from any of the groups. Hi, Santara.
I have indeed, Prism. Hi, Prism. I have indeed some questions, some from the groups and some private ones. And just to let you know as well, Elizabeth is home.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so I will continue. Okay, so the first question actually comes from the group, and it was a very interesting one that created some discussion. Is it possible that Kundalini asks one to contact an ascended master?
Is it possible? Anything is possible. Not all things are probable. Ascended masters, if it is indeed an ascended master, well, that ascended master knows how important it is for a person to have the time and the experience to receive instruction just from the Shakti, rather than that ascended master coming in. And if you know anything about butterflies, Kundalini people are a lot like butterflies. And as the butterfly comes out of the cocoon, it struggles with its wings because the wings have been so folded over that as the butterflies are struggling to bring their wings into proper position so they can fly, they have to move with very, very slow, deliberate movements in order to bring the fluid into the veins of the wings. And if you help that butterfly, stretch its wings and everything, the fluid doesn't get in, and you basically kill the butterfly because it can't fly anymore. You never, ever, ever help the butterfly into its wings. And an ascended master would never, ever help a Kundalini person into their Kundalini wings. It knows that the Shakti, the goddess Shakti, the God Shiva, the sacred male, the sacred feminine. That is what they're doing. That's their job, and that's who helped that ascended master become ascended in the first place. So they already know. They already know. Sacred male and sacred female will give certain individuals, like myself and other people, a charge to help people with the Kundalini in the ways that are about separating people from Reiki, or separating people from gurus that are really not doing anything for them, but allowing them to partake of truth and to let the truth steer their course or steer their Kundalini awakening. So no, an ascended master, if it's truly an ascended master, would stay far away from that. But a lot of ascended masters are more like ASS space ENDED masters, which means entities. They're ass-ended entities, and they're coming in and they're trying to pretend to be an ascended master when in fact they are more that ass-ended entity. And yeah, that is a fact, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to put it that way, but it is a fact. An ascended master will look at you with huge levels of compassion. If the Kundalini wants that ascended master into your equation, then typically it's the Kundalini that will pull that master into your equation, and that master will give to you whatever level of teaching that the Kundalini wants it to give to you. But it will not just step right on in and mess with your process without the Kundalini giving it permission to do so. And then again, it has to do it in a way that does not in any way, shape, or form corrupt the individual's process. So there's no competition. There's no saying, oh, lash out at that person, or oh, steal that wallet, or, there's none of that stuff going on. But it's rare. Now, some people have seen indeed, and this is not uncommon during the Kundalini awakening phenomena, teachers that have passed coming to a student to give them a teaching or something of that level. And if you have a belief system that recognizes lineages or that recognizes a dead teacher wanting to still be of service, well, then that may open the gate for you to have an interaction with a dead teacher. But it'll always be through the Kundalini first. Kundalini has total control first. And no level of recognition is to be given to anything that comes in, I don't care what it looks like, that comes in and says, oh, I'm an ascended master, you shall bow and descend thine attitude upon me of great worship and devotion. And it's just like, you just walk away from that. Your devotion is always to be to the Kundalini alone. Nothing else. Even when people do give devotion to Chrism, they're only giving devotion to that portion of Chrism that's the Kundalini. It's not the individual Chrism. And the individual Chrism doesn't even want that. But the Kundalini aspect knows how incredibly helpful it is. And so, of course, that is people are given that opportunity. C.L. Morgan writes, he says, funny, when time to listen to Chrism is usually signaled by eagles or hawks circling above. Well, that makes total sense because those eagles and hawks are definite Kundalini creatures, and they represent the spirit taking flight. And C.L. Morgan, your spirit is definitely right up there with them, flying around. Doug Bennett writes, I'm definitely a youngster in this process, but I'd like to know some other basic mantras other than Om, Namah Shivaya, or cleansing ones like Va Ram Ham. Okay, all right. I don't really recognize the Va Ram Ham. That doesn't really do anything for me at all. I've never really done it. I've looked into it. they're saying that these are the seed mantras per chakra, and I'm not buying that at all. And it's certainly, my Kundalini doesn't indicate at all that it's conducive to Kundalini awakening. It's just it's an artifact of a religion that wants to think that it has more control over a divine process than it actually has. That would be Hinduism. Okay. It has no more control over Shakti, Kundalini, sacred male, sacred female than any other belief system has. Okay, and so you don't need to necessarily glom onto what that belief system is suggesting. Another mantra that you could say, aside from the I am at one with the all that I am, and I think you were here, Doug, when I mentioned that I am at one with the all that I am. That is actually an interlocking mantra, and what I mean by interlocking is it feeds itself. So you would say it this way. For the interlocking mantra, you'd say it this way. I am at one with the all that 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 I am. That's the interlocking aspect. Okay? And that goes into infinity. You can just keep going with that until you run out of breath. Okay, or you can do the singular. I am at one with the all that I am. I am at one with the all that I am. And you just keep going with that. Another mantra that you could say would be one towards the elephant Ganesh. And I find that saying the mantras in Sanskrit are very helpful, actually, because Sanskrit really speaks to the Kundalini, because the people that originated the language of Sanskrit all welcomed the Kundalini, or much of that population welcomed it. Excuse me a moment. They welcomed the Kundalini, and they designed their language around the aspect of Kundalini that was present within that society at that time. So if you can say, like say this one here, this is a long mantra and it's a hard one, but I'll go ahead and say it to you anyway. It's Gana Twam Ganapati Havamahe Kavin Kavinu Mupama Shavastamam Jeshtara Jam Brahminam Aspeta Anaha Nasembanu TBC the Sadanam. So that's one that you can learn. That one's not too hard. But I know it sounds hard when you hear the Sanskrit for the first time. It's just like, oh, there's no way I can say that. What the heck is a Pamashavastamam? You know. But it is very effective. Matter of fact, it's one of the few mantras that I use with my students at all, because that is a mantra to help people get rid of blockages. Blockages in their acceptance of Kundalini, blockages in their acceptance of the change of life that they have to make with regards to Kundalini, changes in the way they think, changes with their inner dialogue, changes in the many, many different ways that Kundalini will press a person to make. Okay, and so there are many mantras. You can also just say, I'm in one with my Kundalini. So you say that over and over. I am at one with my Kundalini. I am at one with my Kundalini. I am at one with my Kundalini. And you can start it and stop it with the Om. Okay, so feel free to do that. Don't forget the Om. And I'm saying Om, A-U-M, not necessarily O-M-M. And I understand that there are different meanings for the A-U-M as opposed to the O-M-M, and neither one is really incorrect. But I tend to go with the Aum, even though you may not be able to hear that spoken over the radio here, because I don't know how good my intonation is coming through. So yeah, very, very, very important for people to be able to feel free to make up your own mantra. Don't be afraid. to make up your own mantra. And if you need to translate it into Sanskrit, do it. They've got those. You have that option online. Okay. For those of you that want to become a private student, I need you to declare that you have the intention of being a private student, and that you will follow the safeties and you will follow the instructions I give you, no matter how hard or how difficult they may be. And this is being thrown in right now, but I can see that at least one person on the chat room there is a new student of mine, and I'd also like you to write a spiritual biography, so I know what you've been dabbling in, and how it came to be that you had a Kundalini awakening because of that. So, for those of you that wish to be a private student, please do those things. And I'm going to go back to Her Holiness Santar, and I want to thank you for your patience. Please continue with your question.
No, that was really interesting, Prism, and you referred to a few things that are going to come up in the questions, but we'll come to that. Okay, can you speak on the topic of the Masons and the Kundalini connection, if there's any?
To donation, okay. Donation.
No, Masons. No.
Nations.
The Masons.
Nations.
No. M as in mother. Masons. Freemasons.
Oh, Masons. Like. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
the group of people. Okay. The Masonic people. The Masonic people are a people that back in the 15th century, 16th century, they took some of the information that some of the Crusaders found in Egypt, and they took that within themselves, and they started to practice basically what we would call Egyptian sacred sorcery, and they began to practice those things on each other, on their enemies, on different things like that. They became a very, very, very secretive society. It was very compartmentalized. They do recognize Kundalini in their 33rd degree. In the Masonic 33rd degree, what they're saying is that 33rd is the amount of vertebra that exists within the human spine. And if you've got the 33rd degree, well then you have the Kundalini awakened within you, and that's kind of their code word for how enlightenment happens with them. But they allow a lot of entities. There's a lot of entities there to trigger you up and to suck away your energy and to kind of take you hostage as you become a battery for other types of not the most positive scenarios. Now, the Masons that don't reach the 33rd degree, these guys and gals, these people are just very service-oriented people. They're very strong in their service. They want to give to the community, and they're the ones that really put a nice face on the whole Masonic thing. But as you get into the organization, you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the organization. Well, there's a bit of a corruptive element there too. Vis-a-vis the Egyptian-based sorcery magic that that puts up a lot of blockage to truth and love and the appreciation of divinity as a standalone process of transformation by human beings. And you can hear me just trying to pick my words here. It's very hard to describe some of these things. And yeah, the Freemasons is another word for them. And they're the ones that built all the really sacred cathedrals in France and I think in Ireland and England and Germany and Spain and Italy. It was the Freemasons that figured out the golden means rectangle, the golden means, MEANS, rectangle, and that's that's a very, very and Phil Karuba is saying there's a light and dark side to that organization. Absolutely, as there is with most things on this world, by the way. You can drown in milk. And so because you can drown in milk, there's a dark side to milk if you are swimming in it. Like we know that so many awakened Kundalini goddesses do. Next question.
Thank you, Prism. Okay, next question. I was born, raised, and live in the United States of America. I don't have any real interest in Eastern religions, philosophies, or terminologies. Is there a non-Eastern focused book that you can recommend that has good information in it about Kundalini?
Well, that's pretty much where I'm at with it. Kundalini, even though having a belief system can awaken the Kundalini if you're very, very devout. So, for instance, one guy, that I won't mention his name, but one guy, he was a very, very, very strong Catholic. And he wouldn't just go to church on Sundays, but he'd go to church on Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. I mean, this man was very, 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 very devout in his Catholic faith, and he'd just go in there and just begin to pray and pray hard, and boom! One night when he was doing that Kundalini came up, and he had no clue what was going on, and he wrote a whole book about that. For me, not being raised religious, my Kundalini's always been without a patina of a belief system to it. I never had a belief system associated with it. I always knew that it was something different than normal physicality. When you see entities stick their heads through the wall, or you know that you're seeing things that, one, other people aren't seeing, and two, nobody else really wants to admit that they're seeing. So three, you learn to shut up about it, and four, you never place it within a religious context. For those that have the religion, however, this is how you can get, devils and angels and, these types of things. And I never had devils or angels. I had certain strong negative entities try to attack me, but they were like gaseous pyramids, about 3 feet across, floating in the air, and I would just smack them, and play Tibetan chanting, and that seemed to take care of them. But any of the other phenomena, I never really did have phenomena based on religious themes at all. I had huge levels of like I would have giants come to me that would frighten me. But, it wasn't a giant St. Peter or St. Paul or, none of that. Nor was it Ganesha or Kali or Shakti Shiva. None of those folks ever visited me either. So naturally speaking, without any kind of childhood, that involved religion, everything that I write of is non-religious with the Kundalini. So I would suggest you read the things that I write of. And the reason why, and I'm not doing this because I want you to read my writings, because I'm so egotistical about my writings. It's just that the information that is coming through me, I can take responsibility for that. I can claim that, as I know that is the truth, and that it is without religious bias, without spiritual bias. It is coming straight from the Kundalini, straight into your eyes or your ears if you're watching a video about it. The other way is, you can get to it without, say, some of the really strong religious, underpinnings, but people treat science like a religion too. And so, the priests of science are the PhDs. These are the priests and priestesses of science. And so, they're promulgating their agenda, their scientific method-based agenda that doesn't really recognize some of the truly, truly fantastic things that the Kundalini does without need of scientific replication or weighing or measurement or anything of that nature. It just does it, and it gets done. And so, I could say you could go to Bonnie Greenwell's book, Kundalini something, I think, and but she's a PhD. She's just going to quote the science to you. She's not going to really help you with regards to some of the more amazing qualities of Kundalini because she's glued to science, and she knows that in order for people to take her seriously, well, she's got to have that PhD behind her name, and that's what she has done. And she's written a book, and it's not a bad book. And for some basic Kundalini information, I think that's very good. It's Bonnie Greenwell is the name of the author, and you can look her up on the web, and you'll see the book there. Gopi Krishna also wrote a book called Kundalini, the Evolutionary Energy in Man, or Living with the Kundalini. And he made every mistake in the book. So you don't want to see his book as a how-to guide. Not at all. It's a how-not-to-do guide. Okay? Especially the first half of it. The second half, when he starts to recognize what's happening to him and he starts to follow the advice of the Kundalini, well then, you see the transformation take place within him. But it almost killed him, before he was able to learn that Kundalini, not science, is the way to go with this. And so I'm going back over here to the chat room. Brent says this. He says, as well, the ride has 7 drops. I don't know what that's talking about. Maybe I should go back further. He says, my Kundalini told me to find out about what Leviathan means, and it's a giant sea snake, and the name means coiled one. The ride has also 3 cars, red, orange, and yellow. I'm not sure about a ride. Perhaps corresponding with root, sacral, shoulders, as well the ride. So I don't know what that means, what he's saying, the ride. I mean, what are you talking about, like a carnival ride, Brent? This must be a dream. I'll just give that a rest here. I don't know about any carnival rides named after Kundalini. Leviathan, I guess, would be one. Let's see. So continuing along the lines of this, I'll just continue. I'll go ahead with the questions there, Amelia.
Okay, thank you very much, Chrism. The next question has been sent to me. It's a little long, but I would like to read it all to you, as I know it's something that occurs for many people, and there's an underlying anxiety in it, even though it's really well thought out. So here we go. I have a question for Chrism. If he has anything to say, it would be very much appreciated. It's about thumping heartbeat. At times my heart feels like it's going to jump right out of my chest. It's unnerving. It's becoming more regular to the point that it's happening every day, whereas I have only noticed it before sporadically over the last year. I can sometimes feel it in my hands, my fingers, feet, and the back of my neck. If I relax and just watch the sensations, I notice energy from the heart move its way up to the center of the brain. Sometimes when I lie down and surrender to the feelings as best I can, I often feel I just want to go to sleep and not feel it because it's so intense. I notice a throbbing in the base of the spine as well. The sacral and solar plexus chakras don't have any feelings, but all the others do. I do know that Kay seemed to show that the higher chakras would be undergoing increased activity and clearing. It has been shown before the sensation started and now during. I have also been shown to increase water consumption. Is there any additional insight or advice or words of comfort, laughing out loud, Chrism may have in regards to this? I would say I would like to eliminate it, but well, we all know about resistance. I have asked Kundalini for it to be smoother and not so extreme, but no change. Aside from water, could there be anything else that may be beneficial? I'm also noticing increased fatigue. Thank you very much. I hope this isn't too much for the radio show. Maybe there is a teaching on this that I've missed. I guess I'm just hoping that it's common.
Well, the heart thumping is normal. That's a normal thing. You'll get extreme heart palpitation. You'll get extreme lack of heartbeat. I mean, seemingly you could drive a truck through the heartbeat because they're becoming so separated. Your sinus rhythm, your cardiac rhythm, will be manipulated by the Kundalini. She will give you extreme heart rate and of high or low. Excuse me a moment. And so that is normal. That is normal. And this will have a direct effect on your blood pressure as well. You get high blood pressure like I have, or you can get very, very, very low blood pressure like I think Amelia has. Right, Amelia?
Yeah, that's right. I have had those heartbeats that you could drive a truck through. Not nice.
Right. And so, yeah, those are all normal things. Those are all very, very normal things. Don't let them bother you. Don't expect to have all the chakras being stimulated at all the same times. Don't expect that either. Allow that to go as the Kundalini wants it to go, not as your limited consciousness thinks things should go. When we feel the chakras, we have expectations of feeling every chakra, and sometimes those expectations are fulfilled, but at other times they are not fulfilled, and you are not to have the expectation that because you've been allowed to feel a chakra being infused or forged or moving, that's the case for all the chakras all the time to be moving in such a way. It's not that way at all. You need to really be aware of your desire to control the Kundalini based upon what she exposes of herself to you. So she exposes you to a teaching about heart rate, and then the association with feeling a burst of energy go up in the center of the brain, and then you begin to expect that over and over and over, and it's just not the way it's going to be presented typically. You may get that over and over again, but you may not get it all the time. And so it's very important for you to understand that it's not going to happen the way your expectations create it to happen all the time. It's going to happen the way it needs to happen at that time. And I'm gonna put our questions on hold there, Amelia. Okay?
Yeah, okay, Prism.
Just for a hold here, and I'm going to go to Elizabeth and Laranya and welcome you guys to the program. Hello, you both.
Hi. Hello.
And I was just wondering if you have anything to say, Elizabeth, and if you or Laranya have anything to say.
Not really. I didn't really. She didn't give me anything this week, except for in relation to my process, because I've been going through some, just still in the fire with a lot of stuff piling up, a lot of situations and things in my life that are just coming at me. A lot of pressure, a lot of stress. And
no worries, my dear. No worries. No, I'm just checking in with you, all. Just checking in.
Yeah, so what she gave me was in relation to that, questions I was asking her about why that was happening and what I should do about that. And so that's...
Okay, all right. Very, very good. And I'll go ahead and put you in the blue here, my dear. And I'm going to... That's so weird. There we go. And bringing you back into the red, Amelia?
Here I am.
Did I answer that question at all?
Yes, I think you did, Prism. Is there anything else she can do?
She needs to eat
no.
She needs to eat the watermelon, the coconut. Watermelon in the morning,
Yeah.
at least every day, a little one at least. Coconut water, some of that living water I was talking about. Let go of the expectation of being able to control or to expect the Kundalini to do a certain thing because it's done something like that before. Be open to bringing this into, come like a child is what it is. And Lori on the chat room is writing about, she says, my daughter's blood pressure is getting worse. She can't even walk down the sidewalk without feeling heavy and pain radiating up her leaves. Doctor diagnosed her with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Of course, it's got to be a syndrome. So Lori, well, I'll suggest it's something else, and I think that you know what I'm going to suggest that it is. And she should just start doing some maybe the 5 Tibetans with you when you do your practice. Maybe that's something she can get into as well. And then going back to the questioner, Amelia. Yeah, she's having.
I think, Prism, I'd like to say that, this lady, I think, is aware of a lot of things from past experiences too, from what she's written, that, we shouldn't resist. And while we can know in theory, I'm not going to ask for it to be taken because I know I shouldn't, and I'll just ask for it to be a little easier. Sometimes those are all just resistances to what's being done that we have disguised, And I think maybe if she can really and truly let go of wanting to have any input at all in any way to it, and I'm speaking from experience with regard to my heart myself, that makes a difference. That's a surrender that has no conditions, and in some way even be prepared to, this sounds really dramatic, to die, but to just let go of the fear of, that underlying anxiety that is present, even as we're trying to surrender, to really surrender and just let it go and allow the Kundalini to do whatever the Kundalini wishes to do with the heart.
Agreed.
Yeah, so thanks. So next question. This was one from the groups, Chrism. I sometimes notice that when I'm mad about something, I start to see my body have a faint smoke coming off it. I was wondering why this is so, and why only when I'm mad.
So they are getting smoke coming off of their skin when they're angry?
Yeah, she's beginning to notice a faint smoke coming off her body.
Well, I would just say that that's a phenomena that's associated with her being angry, and that she's outgassing that anger. I'll bet nobody else can see it. I bet she's the one that is being allowed to see it. And it's a good teaching on for people to understand how their anger can reach into other people, just by that smoke, that angry smoke. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Chrism. What is your thought on the emerald tablets?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, I know. I hesitated to even ask, but I was asked, so.
Okay, all right. Yeah, the Emerald Tablets, as written by THOTH, supposedly. It's a channeled thing. It doesn't pertain to Kundalini at all. No matter how hard New Age people will try to piece it together in a format that supports their little New Age thing, like rebirthing or ascended masters or listening to some guy that say that calls himself the reincarnation of Thoth, or the flower of life teachings and all of that stuff. Has nothing to do with Kundalini. It has very little to do with enlightenment. It's just something that people really kind of get off on. Now, the sacred geometry around the flower of life teachings is a different deal. That does have to do with Kundalini, but that's sacred geometry, and that's really outside of this emerald tablet type scenario. The emerald tablets to me are within a Kundalini context are worthless. Worthless. They're not going to help you. They're not going to impart secret information that exists between the lines of the word. It's not going to awaken your Kundalini or teach you about Kundalini. It's just it's a nice piece of perhaps historical fiction, but it's fiction nonetheless. And it doesn't have anything to do with our timeline and our time period right now. Yeah. I don't know, to me it's just some guy reaching out as a way of giving himself self-aggrandizement with all of the adulation that would entail. And people are writing about it on the chat room right now, and so-and-so talks about this and written by so-and-so, and I just don't care to give them any advertisement whatsoever. It is not helpful to Kundalini at all. It is just, it's silly. And then Lori says, some guy is selling tablets that cost thousands of dollars, so you can see where the levels of corruption are with this. Okay. I've read the Emerald Tablets, yep. I read, all about that, and, the name that brought their civilization down and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not buying any of it. I'm not buying any of it. And people can write in, can say the sky is now purple and chartreuse. And when everybody else look out and see it's a blue sky, well, no, it's purple and chartreuse. And so people can write anything they want without having to have any kind of burden of proof or any kind of burden of truth to it. And the Emerald Tablets and a lot of these Flower of Life teachings are just like that. To me, I group them in the same grouping as I do with Reiki, vanilla Reiki, chocolate frosting Reiki, tomato Reiki, Egyptian Reiki, dolphin Reiki, ice cream, and the many different flavors of ice cream Reiki. I group it amongst those practices that even though they may have started out with truth are now basically left to be somewhat of a lie into the populations. Certainly with Reiki, but with other things too as well. Anything that is taking you out of the inner consciousness, is what I would avoid in your Kundalini equation. If anything is taking you outside of yourself to pray to Hermes Trismegistus or Thoth or anything like that, just walk away. Walk away. Unless your Kundalini tells you to do devotion to that thing or whatever it is they're espousing, just walk away. It does not serve you. The only thing that will serve you within your Kundalini is the Kundalini itself and the instructions it gives to you. Next question.
Thank you, Prism. Next question is a little long. I've edited it, so bear with me, please. What Shakti shows us can be so abstract and beyond our usual experiences, yet we are forced to fall short using three-dimensional terminologies and comparisons to try and convey something. I am seeking tips and...
Wait a minute. Read that part again. Jesus.
What Shakti shows us can be so abstract and beyond our usual experiences, and we're talking about visions and things here. We are forced to fall short using three-dimensional terminology and comparisons to try and convey something about what the person is experiencing. I am seeking tips and insights on higher dimensions because of the weirdness I am experiencing and how it seems a different place completely than the third dimension. The visions and realities are incomprehensibly different from the here realm. The higher ones unrecognizably different from the ones below it. Does Chrism have an understanding of what type of different they are? Are they archetypal, blueprints, geometric representations?
All right. Well, first of all, there's a little bit of hubris there in thinking that they have experienced everything that the third dimension has to offer. The third dimension also offers geometric intelligence. And geometric intelligence, in many ways, is the foundational prima materia of the third dimension, physical dimension. So I'm not going to suggest that this person has seen everything that they need to see with regards to third dimensional Kundalini representation. Nobody has seen everything that the third dimension has to offer. Okay, number one. So the premise itself is a little off, a little skewed to me. But as we go into the higher dimensions, why would they expect it to be the same? Why would you have the expectation that it's going to be the same as the third dimension? What programming are you pulling from to take third dimensional lifetime reality and to jump it up to fourth dimensional lifetime reality? And why would you think the two realities would be similar at all? That to me is expectation. That to me is not coming as a child, but coming with an expectation based upon a programming, based upon the experience of that programming in the three-dimensional world. And then projecting that expectation into the four-dimensional world. And that's just, it's an unfair projection, and it's an unfair expectation as well. Anything in the astral or in the causal regions is going to be extremely different than what you're experiencing here on this world in limited consciousness. Okay, when you're in the 4D and other dimensions, you don't want to have the expectation of things always being the same as what you're seeing in 3D or even 4D. Okay. I try not to do this 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D, 9D things. This to me is it's aggrandizement along the New Age level that people even think that they have any idea about what a 9D is or a 5D is. They haven't even gotten out of 3D. They're just letting their imaginations run away with them and ascribing certain phenomena and certain conditions to what they're labeling as 5D, 4D, 3D, whatever. I tend not to follow those equations. To me, you have basically two worlds that you're walking into. The one world is the physical world, but that physical world comprises so many different expressions of physicality, from rock and vegetable, mammal, amphibian, aviary, fish. I mean, so many different worlds to walk within the one physical world. And then you have the heavenly world. And you have so many worlds to walk in the heavenly realm as well. And so the Kundalini person is basically straddled over the Vasika Pisces of the spiritual world, which I call the heavenly world, and the physical world, which is this world that we're using a computer and listening to some guy on Blog Talk Radio. When you're getting into these made-up machinations of assumed knowledge about 5D, 4D, 6D, all that stuff, to me, it starts to lose the qualities of truth to it. Now, when you just accept the heavenly world and the physical world, because the physical world is also a heavenly world, but we're on this physical world right now, and the Kundalini is allowing us to reach into other levels of experience. And it's that other level of experience that I will call the heavenly fields. And as long as we are open to learning and not trying to project a program, in order for us to feel comfortable and to feel safe and to feel like we know something, then the greater level of teaching will come to the individual. Okay? The Kundalini will take you to where she feels you need to be at whatever time she feels you need to be there. And you don't bring your programming with you. Give yourself entirely to the knowledge that the Shakti Kundalini has over these other jurisdictions, over these areas where she is taking you. So what would happen when as that happens to me, I always ask, I say, what is it you want to teach me here? I'm very, very open to learning. I don't try to figure it out based upon, how it fits into my physical world. I ask questions that pertain to what it means in the heavenly world, because she's showing it to me there in the heavenly world. She will be very, very clear if that teaching applies to me in the earthly world as well. So it's very, very, very important for people to understand that when you're trying to use words, and this person, obviously, very, very intelligent person, this person knows that by using 3D, 4D, 5D, that, they're being forced to use words that don't provide an apt description. When you're in there and you see the geometrical intelligence, so that is one denizen of the heavenly fields, is geometrical intelligence, sacred geometrical intelligence. And sometimes you will land, within that society. And you'll see the geometrics all around you, interacting with each other, interacting with you. And you just want to ask the Kundalini, what is the teaching here? And the teaching will often be that there are other forms of intelligence that do not in any way, shape, or form resemble human flesh body bags, basically, or water bags. We are these bags of water, 78% water, and not all intelligent life has that quality. And she's introducing you to an area where it's so completely different, and maybe even a little bit smarter, because they have less of a restriction on the sensorial input the geometric civilization does. And so she's showing you these different areas and getting you used to the idea of otherness that is different than you. And she'll do the same thing, she'll put you into another environment. She put me into an environment where I was on this planet that was very dry, and she put me to a dry riverbed and put me through a lot of different lessons that the life forms on that world had to teach me. And so, you're constantly being taught, but you're just not being taught in a sit-down classroom, pencil, paper, and eraser type of scenario. She will take you into a different type of an experience that is extremely different from the physical world, definitely from the heavenly worlds, and she will begin to give you a teaching based upon what she wants you to learn in the context of what she wants to teach you. And so the best thing to do is really to be a blank slate, tabula rasa. You go in there, tabula rasa, and you'll come out with the answers that you need to have, especially if you're not so shy that you're afraid to ask her what it means. I was never that shy. I would just say, what are you trying to tell me? And she would show me a different thing, and I'd say, can you tell it to me in a story? And then she'd tell me the story, and then hopefully I would get it, in some way. She's not against doing that for people. Certainly not against doing that for me. Okay. So with regards to 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, just accept what it is that you are being shown. Do not try to project physical-based understandings into non-physical-based experiences, even though it is known that you're coming from a direct physical context. Don't force that expectation into your equation when she's showing you these other civilizations. Over.
Thank you, Prism. Next question. If Kundalini has awakened, is it possible for a person to fall from grace, to ignore the Kundalini, to go in the opposite direction and yet not be punished or have negative consequences in this lifetime?
Are they asking me, is it possible?
Yes.
Well, anything's
is it possible for,
anything is possible, folks. Not all things are probable. Anything is possible. So if you're asking me if it is possible, I'm always going to say, yeah, it's all possible. Anything is possible, but it's not all probable. And that is not probable either. If the Kundalini comes in you, typically, if you resist it or you ignore it or you do something of that nature, there will be some sort of blowback for you. I don't know if it's going to be of a punishing nature or if it will give you a level of experience that if you're trying to live your life without that level of experience that is given you, then your life takes on a different and lesser quality. I know a lot of people have self-committed to the psych ward and they've gone through the medical thing and the Kundalini of its own accord backs off because it sees that it's not going to lead to anything but suicide for that person. So it backs off. It gives that person a rest. It gives that person another time and another life, or maybe later on in that life when that person has been able to accrue more information so that they can have the Kundalini in a very, very special way. I mean, I know a person who's, given Kundalini when they were 21 years old, and they had such a bad response to it that it stopped of its own accord and waited until that person was around 40. And then it came alive again. So sometimes you're just not ready for it, but it needed to come to you at that level. So, for instance, if it needed to come at that person who was 21, well, there were some very specific changes that had to be made in not only the physical constitution of the individual, but also the mental, emotional, and spiritual constitution of that individual. And those constitutional transformations took a bit of time to actuate upon the person. And so they waited another 19 years before they could have the awakening occur again where they could metabolize in a better way. But if a person is just being a shit and saying, no, I'm not going to do it any other way than the way my ego's always done it. I like it that way. It's my way. It's my body. It's my life. And I'm just going to do it any way I want to do it. Well, no. That child will be corrected. Typically. Over.
Thank you, Prism.
You're welcome.
Okay. I've lost the question. Where's it gone? Okay, here it is.
Looks like we have a question. Do we have a question there? Have you talked to this person?
No, I have. They're just listening, Prism. 347, okay. Yeah. Just listening. Okay, so the next question is during some dreams, and it's during the dreams that this...
Wait a minute. I'm looking at 323-202-0516.
Oh, I see that now. I haven't spoken with that person.
And they're gone.
And they just left.
Okay.
Okay. So this occurs for this person during the dream state. I need to empty my bowels. I run to find the washrooms. They are dirty and filthy. This question may appear to be unclean, but I have experienced this. What does this indicate?
What's a watchman? Do they need to... Washrooms.
My God. My accent isn't that bad, is it?
I just couldn't.
Wash.
Who the heck is the watch? And what is he watching exactly?
Wash rooms. Did you get all? Will I read it again?
No, it's okay. So the wash. They needs to go to the bathroom and what?
Yeah, well, empty their bowels in particular, and the wash rooms are very dirty and filthy, And this has happened in a number of dreams. And this man is wondering, what does this indicate? It's a Kundalini.
He's got a lot of detoxing in the lower chakras to do, the first and second chakras. He needs to clean those up. That's what he's being shown.
And can you say a bit more about that? How would one do that?
Well, you get a little Clorox, you get a little water, you get maybe a sponge, and you clean the bathroom. Kidding. You take out negative, hurtful inner dialogue. You take out negative, hurtful activities out of your first and your second chakra. You self-correct away from hurtful attitudes and actions for others. You clean up the lower chakras. If you know what the first chakra represents, like survival and security and shelter and all of these types of things, well, then you clean up how that is happening to you in your life. With the second chakra, you clean up how you create. What is it you create? Abracadabra is a magical term that means as I speak as I create. I create as I speak. And so you want to create as you speak in a very positive, loving, helpful format, rather than a self-deprecation or hurting other people or hurting the environment, or hurting animals. You don't do those types of things. You really begin to clean up your life in a very helpful, loving, kind, respectful way. And these are the areas that you focus on when you're cleaning up the bathroom in the dream.
Something just occurs to me. Probably shouldn't
have to go to the bathroom?
Bowls. The fact that it's the bowl and could the first and second chakra cleanup have got to do with stuff that's been held from the past? Not necessarily.
Well, any time you have Kundalini, there's always going to be past life influence, no matter what. But I don't think that this is pertaining to past life. I think this is pertaining to
I
their.
don't mean past life. I mean things that a person would have done in the past that might need forgiveness or that might need in those areas, first or second. It doesn't matter. It just occurred to me.
Yeah. So this would be something that's happening in their life right now. Typically, you're not going to get dreams of past lives, things. Sometimes you will. If you're doing ayahuasca, that can happen. But with just typical Kundalini dreams, and she's showing you a really, really, really filthy toilet, well, it's really time for that person to look into their own qualities, their own expression from the second chakra on down, and what foods are they? Are they eating clean foods? Are they drinking clean water? Are they having clean attitudes of trust, attitudes of honesty, attitudes of grace and love and happiness and joy, and really cleaning up, so to speak, the levels of blockage that may be occurring for them in that area. And she's giving them a fairly strong and clear signal to do that work.
Okay, thank you, Chrism.
Yes.
Next question. Why merging happens with masculine or feminine aspects during the spinal I'll start again. Why does merging happen with masculine or feminine aspect during the spinal sweep, although the divine is beyond male or female?
How does merging happen? Is that what they're saying?
Why does it happen with masculine and feminine aspects?
Why does it happen with the sacred masculine and sacred feminine?
Yeah, although the divine is beyond male or female.
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, for this body, for this vehicle that we're using here, and because we are separated into different genders, we're separated into sacred mother and sacred father, sacred parents. So the sacred parents come together to form a child. Well, Kundalini sacred parents come together to form a god or a goddess that is still living through a flesh body. And that's one of the reasons that we use that is so that we can see we can match the projection that's been given into the life of our species. So we have a father, we have a mother. And at the same time, we have a sacred father and a sacred mother. And so what the father and mother did to make us, sacred father and sacred mother, do to make us divine, expressive divine, as opposed to divinity that is sleepwalking. With Kundalini, we're no longer sleepwalking. We're expressive divine. These Siddhic skills that I was writing about last night, these are expressive divine capabilities. This is learning how to walk in the heavenly worlds. And to walk in the heavenly worlds, we use Siddhic skills. We use levitation. We use bilocation. We use these different formats of transportation that allow us to walk in the heavenly fields and to walk in the physical fields as well. And so why is sacred male and sacred female used? It's used as a way of teaching us from our own environment and our own life experience that there are parents that are above our parents. There is a divine parentage, a divine lineage that connects us to sacred male and sacred female. And the, people in our current society, they have a much easier time metabolizing sacred male, Well, God, the guy that's sitting up there with a beard on a cloud looking down on us. Well, God wants us to be a certain way, and God wants us to do this or to do that, and God wills this or God wills that. It's very little is spoken about sacred feminine or sacred mother or goddess. And I think that the Kundalini is also inserting that theme into the teaching for a person so that we can recognize that goddess and God are equal all the way across the board, 50-50 equal. It takes two to make one. And it also coincides with that sacred code, which is the Kundalini is a human being that has become the two that are one and the one that is two. Well, as a Kundalini child, as a person with the Kundalini awakening within them, regardless of their chronological physical age, they have become a Kundalini child. And that Kundalini child has been formed by the merging of sacred male and sacred female at the top of the head. And that is the way it's given for us as human beings. The cats might receive it a different way. The whales might receive it a different way. The praying mantises and the 3-foot-long grasshoppers may try to, they may get it a different way. But this is the way it is for us. And I think it's a very, very, this way has such truth in it that the grasshoppers and the snakes and the cats and the dogs and the wild creatures gravitate towards a Kundalini awakened individual. They want to be with that level of divine. They want to be with expressive Kundalini divine within the human body. They want that. They gravitate towards it the same way they gravitate towards a light in the darkness. We have become a light in the darkness. It's just that our light goes beyond the ranges of visual light field that our physical eyes can appreciate. Other eyes are not so restricted. Okay, so we have been given that template to follow because it coincides with our own so well and provides such an easy teaching platform for people to understand their Kundalini awakening through. Over.
Thank you. Next question. Chrism, what is intuition and can it be wrong?
What is intuition?
Can it be wrong?
Intuition is a person's spiritual self speaking to them without the aid of any other form of information. So you don't need science, you don't need spiritual, you don't need anything. It's your own intuition, your own intuitive processes. And these are the processes that equal a hunch. So if you have a hunch, then you're using your intuition. If you're feeling out a certain situation, you're feeling it using your intuition, using psychic forces that are aligned to recognize a specific level of information that coincides with what you're trying to find. So in other words, it's like if you're a blind person and you're searching for the key to the door, and so you feel each key and you just let your intuition go into that key ring and that key chain, and you find through feelings the right key to the lock in the door. And this is what intuition does for us. It allows us to see in another way without being dependent upon physical eyes. Over.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, and there's
next
a second
question.
after that. Second after that question was what?
Oh, yeah. Can it be wrong? Can intuition be incorrect? Can it be wrong?
Intuition in and of itself is never incorrect. A person's interpretation of intuitive forces is often wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It's your interpretation. It's your interpretation that can be mistaken. Intuition just basically shows you what's there or gives you a feeling of what's there. Your interpretation of that feeling is where things can go awry.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What does pins and needles sensation at the third eye mean?
The third eye is being worked on. Over.
Next question. Why does blue color appear sometimes when the eyes are closed during meditation?
Because that is the aspect of sacred masculine that is coming in. That one half of your process, which is sacred masculine, will come in as that beautiful blue color. Often, when you have a mature process, you'll see purple everywhere. Purple. Even in your waking vision, when you're not meditating, you're just walking around, you'll just have all of a sudden purple will cover your visual field for a micro moment, and then fade away. But blue is sacred males. Blue is definitely a Kundalini color. And if you see that coming across your visual field, say thank you. Say thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Over.
Okay, it is 3 minutes to close down, Chrism. So that's the end of the questions for today.
Okay, well, I have a few things that I want to cover here. Now, well, I'll take Lori's. Lori says her Kundalini forces her to walk in geometric patterns with her body by walking in a circle or infinity sign. And that is perfectly fine. That is perfectly okay. Circle, infinity sign, and triangle are all Kundalini symbols. So you're walking the Kundalini, and the Kundalini is forcing you to walk itself. So that's all good. That is very, very good. And then Brent D. asked me to go higher, and he said his Kundalini, he was actually at a roller coaster in Canada talking about the Leviathan, and his Kundalini told him to find out what Leviathan means, and it's a giant sea snake that the name means coiled one. The ride also has 3 cards, red, orange, and yellow, perhaps corresponding with root, sacral, and solar. Yeah, and the ride has 7 drops, so he's going with 7 chakras there. I think the Kundalini was using that as a teaching mechanism for him, and I think it's great. And Brent D., you go with that. That's a very site-specific Kundalini teaching just for you, corresponding with where you were at that moment. And this happens quite a bit. So you're right on target with that, Brent. Nicely going. And then Lori's, we already talked about her daughter. And yeah. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be here, myself and Amelia Centauran. I want to thank Amelia, for my co-host, for being the helpful, beautiful person that she is. She helps in all areas of the many groups and the chat rooms and all of that. So thank you, my dear co-host. And I've got 10 seconds left, so I'm just going to leave it with an Om. Ah.